It's one of the rarest and most disabling genetic conditions known to medicine.
It occurs when bone forms in muscles, tendons, ligaments, and other connective tissues.
And there are no other known examples in medicine of a normal organ system turning into another.
So let's go behind the mystery.
Back when I was 5 years old, my mom was getting me ready for kindergarten, and she discovered a lump on the side of my neck. She took me to the local pediatrician. Diagnosis came back that I had cancer, and that they gave me a prognosis of 6 months. My parents were quite stricken by that diagnosis, of course. Well, the 6 months came and went, and I didn't die. So my parents wanted to know if there might have been a wrong diagnosis. They took me to a cancer specialist in New York City, and he looked at my toes, and he said, "Don't worry, your daughter's not going to die, but she will live with some challenges in her life with a rare disease called FOP." Today, at 60 years old, the disease has affected almost every joint in my body except most of my fingers.
The Balancing Act met with Dr. Richard Keane of the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in the UK to understand more about this disorder.
Fibrodysplasia Ossificans Progressiva, commonly known as FOP. It's a condition affecting the soft tissues, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, and these can then change and develop into hard, bony swellings. They often will start on the back or the neck region, sometimes on the scalp, the shoulders, the elbows and the wrists, the hips, the knees, the feet. And one of the most common problems, which can be very devastating for patients, will be it can also affect the jaw, so they're unable to open their jaw fully. So essentially, with time, an individual will actually develop almost a second external skeleton.
FOP is one of the rarest, most disabling genetic conditions known in medicine and affects approximately 1 in 750,000 to 1 in 2 million births. There are 800 confirmed cases across the globe and 285 known cases in the United States.
Children with FOP can present with swellings. The swellings can be red, swollen, they can be painful to touch, so many times these swellings are associated with restriction in movement. The standout symptoms are the short big toe. It can be curved or malformed, and it's the early representation of the condition.
Despite the progression of her disease, Nancy had a fairly normal childhood and lots of family support. Her parents did their best to research how FOP would affect her, but little was still known.
The disease did progress some in my elementary school years, mostly in my upper back and my shoulders. It was suggested to my mom that I start physical therapy and occupational therapy to enhance the mobility that I did have. I now reflect back and say they gave me much more than just the physical aspect of learning to live with the disease, but they gave me tenacity to move on, even though I would have more limitations in my life. We always tried to find the positive in things.
At this time, there is no treatment for FOP, and the disorder only continues to get worse as the body continues to form new bone.
New bone growth occurs as a result of a flare-up or following trauma.
So there are consequences to missing the diagnosis of FOP. One of the main ones might be that because people think it's cancer, they think it needs a biopsy. By doing the biopsy, you're going to cause damage to the muscle tissue, and that in itself can make the swelling become even more of a bad flare-up. To try and alleviate the misdiagnosis, we're trying to raise awareness of FOP amongst clinicians. The FOP should be considered before you proceed with any sort of surgical biopsy intervention.
After Nancy was diagnosed, her mother agreed to have her serve as a case study at Yale Medical School. For the next 12 years, Yale was a home away from home of sorts.
During a flare-up in my left arm, they injected steroids right into the muscle. Along with the surgery they tried on my right elbow, and it released the tendons, and it was fabulous. I had wonderful motion in my arm, and then 6 months later, my arm flared up, and it contracted more than it was prior to the surgery.
Upon graduating high school, Nancy worked at a flower shop, then went to college to become a bookkeeper. When her hips fused, she transitioned to a wheelchair and worked as a computer programmer until 1985, when a tragic bus accident occurred.
Started another flare-up in my jaw, which was extremely painful. It locked my jaw permanently. That created another new normal that I had to face as a person not being able to eat and brush my teeth. It became very apparent to me and my family that I had to quit my work and retire because of the pain that I was involved.
Fate stepped in 1988. Nancy met Andy Sando after her wheelchair company told her they had found someone who had the same disorder as her.
It was just a very wonderful experience to be with somebody who knew exactly what FOP felt like. We were wanting to get married quickly, and by the end of 1988, we were married. It didn't seem like it was anything but normal to us because we had each other. And we lived blissfully for 14 years until his untimely death when he was 44.
When Andy passed away, he was the first FOP patient to donate stem cells, which allowed researchers unprecedented access to information about the disease.
A year after his death, they announced that they found the exact gene that's responsible for FOP. Andy may be gone in this world, but he lives every day in the lab.
In 2006, doctors Fred Kaplan and Eileen Shore at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine and their international collaborators pinpointed a single gene mutation, one letter out of 6 billion in the human genome, that causes the runaway bone growth of FOP.
This was a key milestone in basically our understanding of FOP. We were able to identify that it was caused by a single gene mutation in the ACVR1 gene. By understanding the genetic cause, we've been able to much understand then why this happens and therefore hopefully develop new treatments.
Curos Therapeutics, a leading biotech company, is committed to developing therapeutic treatments for rare muscular disorders.
And they are currently focused on inhibiting ALK2, the genetic cause of FOP.
We started the IFOPA in 1987 with 11 members. We were hoping it would grow as we learned more about the disease. Today, the IFOPA, or International Association, has approximately 800 members from around the world. My goal and purpose was to help one another navigate through life with our challenges and educate others that even though this disease is very debilitating, we still can contribute to the world and make it a better place for those around us.
I think we're on the cusp of sort of developing new, novel treatments that really offer hope and potential for many of these patients who have one of the most severe diseases that I currently look after.
My ultimate hope is that there could be a possible treatment and eventually a cure for FOP. My life is a lot different than most, but I live it to the fullest.
For more information on FOP, visit kurostx.com or ifopa.org.
And of course, you can always visit our website, thebalancing act.com, for more information.
We'll be right back.